In late October last year, in time for Halloween, a five-part horror series created by Korean Australians in Australia was aired on national television. A year later, that's this year, the series has been turned into a webtoon here in Korea. Today, we meet the director of Night Bloomers, 앤드류리, or Lee Bo-young is his Korean name, to delve into his production. Let's connect live with him. Hello, Andrew.
Hello, Andrew.
Hi.
Hi, thank you for joining us. So, Andrew, Night Bloomers, which in Korean is 밤에피는자들, is the first drama created by and featuring Korean Australians in Australia, and it is a meaningful, significant achievement. Now, a year has passed since its release, but can you recall your feelings when the series aired?
Yeah, absolutely. Yes, and thank you. So Night Bloomers was Australia's first Korean Australian series, and the first one that I created. When it was released last year, it premiered at South by Southwest Film Festival and was awarded an Australian Writers Guild Award. So it was well received, and I felt very relieved and thrilled at the same time. Yeah.
Right.
So, yes, the series is divided into 5 episodes, including Friend or Foe and Passing On. Tell us a little bit about the series and also why you chose to delve into the Korean diaspora through the genre of horror.
Yeah, no, thank you. Great question. So firstly, Night Bloomers is a horror anthology series exploring intergenerational stories from unspoken migration experiences from the Korean diaspora. It adopts modern twists on Korean folklore stories mixed with, supernatural beliefs and story traditions from Korean shamanism. And, every episode, each hero faces mortality in a very unique way, coupled with a deep yearning that manifests malevolent forces that the ensemble of characters must overcome collectively. In terms of the horror genre and why I chose that genre was I didn't want to tell a typical Korean migrant story because I wanted to subvert the idea of what migrant narratives can be and look like for diasporic communities. For example, my family's journey to Australia wasn't always positive, and I wanted to highlight that very honestly by using a goblin and other nightly creatures. I could tackle very serious themes in a way that wasn't too confronting for people. Um, and to use vampires as subtext
Hmm.
for ways to talk about issues within Australia through a Korean Australian perspective.
Very
Yeah.
interesting. I mean, I was especially fond of the goblin or dokkaebi in Korean in the series. But Andrew, all of the cast members and most of the staff for the series were of Korean descent. So tell us more about the intentions behind that choice.
Yeah, for sure. So yeah, the entire cast were Korean and the crew were a mixture of Korean and Australians. It was just important to cast for authenticity reasons and also to have Korean writers telling their stories from their perspectives. Yeah, because Australia, we haven't had that opportunity before. So yeah, it was just paramount to make sure that it was authentic, essentially.
I see. And no wonder that we were seeing quite a number of Korean themed elements that were spotted in the series. For instance, Korean grocery stores and also Korea's hanbok or traditional attire, as well as 제사, an ancestral ritual. So can you give us a little bit more on these features and the reason for using those?
Sure. So conceptually the entire series is like one big salpuri dance where the a woman dances in her white hanbok and uses her white scarf to cleanse the I guess the unresolved issues between the living and the dead, which is based on the shamanistic death ritual dance from Jeollanamdo, which is where my family comes from. And so as all the characters are facing death in some sort of way, culturally, there were a lot of things we could draw upon. So, from the Cheza, as you mentioned before, to, paramedics trying to save someone dying, to our Korean food. There were several Korean cultural markers, basically because just where my family's from, which is Cholanamdo, which has a lot of, I guess, shamanistic practices and folklore culture down there.
And
That's really interesting because that's where I was born as well, Jeonnam-do, and I'm a very, very proud Korean Australian. I'm sure you're a very, very proud Korean Australian. How much and in what way do you think it does you being an Australian Korean or Korean Australian descent influence your work?
Yeah, it's a very interesting question because I think firstly, I think work firstly our work ethic as Koreans and the Australian laid backness can clash at times for me, but I think I think I am very Korean in the sense that working extremely hard is paramount, not just for myself but also for my family's prosperity. Creatively speaking, my mother and father's influence has definitely shaped my work, both in a positive and a negative way. But all worked out through therapy, and I'm a writer at the end of the day. And for example, my father was a Taekwondo master. And he, instilled a lot of what he learned as an ex-military Korean man. And, he used to make me spar with him when I was just like 6 years old, and he would make me basically attack him. But, I was really short, and he would just kick me, and I would go flying across the room. And this would go on all night, and I'd be crying to the point of, always getting back up. But, his way of teaching me this, I think of that when I think about it, it was him trying to make sure that no matter what happens, I have resilience, that I always get back up, and that I keep trying. And so I don't think that's an Australian thing. I think that was basically from his upbringing. And so yeah, my parents definitely have instilled a lot of Korean values and elements in my work. And with my mother, she was a singer and a writer that could never really have a career that she wanted. So she made sure that I had all the opportunities so that I could live my life truly and, stand up for things that I believe in. Yeah.
we can definitely see how your family influenced you and your work as well, Andrew. Now, it's becoming more common, however, that we also discover Australian productions that feature Korean Australian content, even Korean lines. Would you say that is due to the recent, even bigger impact of the Korean wave?
Yeah, so I think, yeah, like in Australia, the Korean wave is 100% here, and you can feel it. You can feel the influence everywhere in the food and culture and on television and films. And I think it's a really great thing. I think it can be intense sometimes too for me, but as an artist and I think it's a great positive thing. It really does help Korean artists and authors and musicians prosper and have their voices heard and have a career, have a creative career. So it's definitely been a positive aspect for us down in Australia as well.
Let's now go back to Night Bloomers, but not the TV series. It has also been released here in Korea as a webtoon. Tell us more.
Sure, yes. So it's an extension of the Night Bloomers anthology stories. And, I had the opportunity to write more stories from the Korean Australian perspective and collaborate with native Korean webtoon artists. And, it was just a real privilege because it was a true collaboration between both Korea and Australia. And yeah, the episodes are being released weekly on the Post type platform. Yeah.
Sounds so good. And Korea is a webtoon powerhouse. Do you think there's a chance for Night Bloomers to be re-exported to Australia in the form of a webtoon?
Yeah, absolutely. So currently we are focusing on the Korean market as we are releasing the episodes weekly, and we will translate them back into English. And as this is the first of its kind, we are expanding it slowly and kind of learning from Korea as we go. So definitely.
Looking forward to that to happen. Now, Andrew, one final question to you. Have you got any plans for further productions embedded with Korean culture?
Yeah, definitely. As mentioned before, my father was a Taekwondo master, and because I was training since I was 4 years old, I had this quite unique upbringing, and because of that, I want to develop a project within this world. I'm also currently adapting a Korean film into English language for work and directing a play which was written by a Korean adoptee Australian. And so even though I have projects that revolve around Korean culture, I definitely still have projects that are Australian, but through, I guess, a Korean sensibility and aesthetics, for sure.
Can't wait for all of those productions. So thank you very much, Andrew, for taking the time today. And we definitely look forward to many more interesting productions from you.
Thank you, Andrew. If you need a Korean Australian, here I am.
Great. Thank you so much for having me, Summer.
All right, and that brings us to the end of Friday's edition of the Culture Wave. Thank you, Walter, maybe future actor, and we'll see you again next week.
See you soon.